Hey guys, you are watching Matt the Musketeer, and I really miss Battlefield Bad Company 2. I really do miss this game. Now this is PC gameplay. A friend of mine bought this for me for my birthday off Steam last week, so I've been getting back into my Battlefield Bad Company 2, and that's the reason I'm making this video, because as I said, I really have missed this game. I originally played this game on PlayStation 3 when it first came out in either 2009 or 2010, I can't remember which, but when it did come out, I was actually still living at university, living in halls of residence, and I couldn't connect my PlayStation 3 onto the online, so I couldn't play the multiplayer, which was pretty lame. So I took my PlayStation 3 round to my cousin's house, and we played it for 16 hours straight. Now, Battlefield Bad Company 2 was my first ever experience of the Battlefield series, and it was pretty much love at first sight. All I seemed to do for those 16 hours was just seem to snipe on Arica Harbour, and since then it's been love at first sight with Battlefield, and I have never looked back on the series. But inevitably, since the release of Battlefield 3, I've hardly played any Bad Company 2 at all, especially now that I've moved across onto PC, and for a long time I didn't have this game on this platform. Now, it's only when I've moved back to this game recently that you start to remember and notice things that this game has that seem to lack in Battlefield 3. Now, that is the subject of today's video. I want to talk to you about certain things that I have missed from Bad Company 2 that don't feature in Battlefield 3. And now that we are on the dawn of Battlefield 4 in the next year or so, I thought it would be interesting to talk about certain things that we missed from this game that we might want to see return to the Battlefield series. Now, the first item that I've got on this list that I have compiled is jungle environments. Now, as you can see here, I am playing on the Valparaiso map, which is pretty much entirely based in the jungle. Now, Battlefield 3 really does lack in jungle environments. They're mainly urban and desert-based environments. Now, I've actually noticed that coming back to Bad Company 2, it took me a little while to adjust to spotting the enemy in the jungle again, because in these darker, greener environments, it's actually much more difficult to spot the enemy that you're fighting against. So that is something that I think would be really interesting to see brought back into the Battlefield series in Battlefield 4. Whilst Battlefield 3 had a real great variation in maps, I think aesthetically a lot of them did seem very similar. Things like Carg Island and Noshaw Canal seem very similar, and then things like Operation Metro and Sen Crossing seem, very similar. So I think it would be good in Battlefield 4 to see kind of a variation in aesthetics, so each map had its own kind of feel of environment with it. I think would be pretty cool. Now, whilst we're on the subject of variation, something that I really enjoyed in Bad Company 2 that Battlefield 3 lacked was a variation in weapon types. Now, what I mean by that is, of course, Battlefield 3 has a lot more variation in actual weapons and a wider field of weapons, but Bad Company 2 had some Second World War weapons, which I really have missed, actually, because I did enjoy using those on Bad Company 2. Now, of course, there were reasons for this. The campaign started in the Second World War, so it kind of tied into the campaign. But actually, when Battlefield 3 brought out the extra map pack of Back to Karkin that had things like Wake Island in, I was actually hoping there might have been some Second World War weapons to go with that, because when I used to play Bad Company 2 a lot, I always liked to use the M1A1 Thompson submachine gun and the M1 Garand as well. It was quite a good rifle. So they're the kind of things that I've missed from Bad Company 2 that I think would be quite cool to see in Battlefield 4 if we saw a kind of a mixture of weapons from different time periods rather than just all of state-of-the-art weapons, because it worked quite well in Bad Company 2, and as I said, it did add some nice variation to the game. Now, one of the most noticeable and important things on my list is destruction. Now, before any of you guys go and try and hang me by the neck, I know that Battlefield 3 does have a lot of destruction in the game, but I think it is arguable that Battlefield Bad Company 2 has a lot more useful and interesting and noticeable destruction than Battlefield 3, and I think that is to do with building modulation. Now, on Battlefield 3, a lot of the maps have buildings acting as the edge of the map, for example, Sen Crossing, so a lot of those buildings can't be completely destroyed. Whilst Bad Company 2, the buildings all act as individual modules, so every single building can be flattened. There are no maps on Bad Company 2 where the buildings themselves act as the edge of the map. So I think on Bad Company 2 the destruction is a lot more useful, and it just seems to play out a lot more interestingly because every single building is destructible. So I think that is something that I'd like to see return in Battlefield 4. I think it would make it a lot more of a realistic game and also a lot more of an enjoyable game if they could bring that back into the series. Now, Battlefield 3 does feature anti-aircraft weaponry. There are, of course, the fixed position weapons and the mobile anti-aircraft tanks. Now, the position of these fixed static anti-aircraft guns, I think, is a direct response to Battlefield Bad Company 2, where on the attacking spawn points, people used to just circle above them in helicopters and pretty much kill anybody that spawned. So I do understand the reason why they put these anti-aircraft weapons in the position they did on Battlefield 3. But in a future Battlefield, I'd like to see these anti-aircraft guns brought back into the game in a bit of a more formidable fashion. On Bad Company 2, for example, these weapons can be found in and around the objectives and a lot more concentrated within the map. And this is something I'd like to see being brought back into the series, because I do think the aircraft have it a little bit too one-sided in their favour at the moment with all the flaring systems and anti-lock-on missile systems. So bringing back good old machine guns that can take down helicopters is something that I'd like to see a bit more reinstated into the series. Now, other things that I have missed from the Battlefield series that I would like to see back in the future include, of course, the jet ski. That is something that I've really missed from the Battlefield series, and the ability for snipers to call in airstrikes or mortar strikes. Now, I actually preferred this idea over the mortar weapon that you can equip in Battlefield 3. I think it was a lot more balanced for snipers to use this to try and take out other snipers in camping situations. I think they prove very useful on some maps like Team Deathmatch on Karg Island with people camping on the roof. Now, if you guys have anything that you have missed from the Battlefield series that you want to see back in the future, feel free to tell me in the comment section below. And if you've enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. But in the meantime, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.